Hello, Fire Goddesses. Welcome to episode 67. I am back flying solo on the podcast. You probably have noticed that probably for the past 2 months or so, I have had some amazing guests, some amazing, unbelievable guests. And I hope that you were able to learn a lot from the guests that were on the Reclaim Your Fire podcast, and that you took some big lessons away. So in today's episode, this is a result actually of hearing from you all, from hearing from the goddesses who listen. They want to know more about how to stand in your power during times when it feels really difficult to do that, when other people are pressuring you, when it feels like the external world, where all the voices in the external world are telling you to go one direction, and that one direction is not feeling aligned with you. It does not feel safe for you. It might feel like you need to do some additional research, some additional thinking around making a decision. And without actually spelling out what I'm talking about, you probably know what I'm talking about, don't you? So in this episode, I have had actually similar episodes in the past. I just want to reference those if you are interested in learning more about owning your own authority, making decisions from your truest authentic self. I invite you to listen to my podcast episodes 41 and 44. And also my mentor, Jim Fortin. I will link all of these in the show notes. Jim does an amazing episode on your authority that is my favorite episode that he's done so far. And he only did this one like a month to 6 weeks ago at the time of this recording, so it's a pretty new one. It's episode 173. I will link all of this in the show notes. And so in the meantime, I invite you to listen to this episode. You will get a lot of nuggets out of this one. And thank you to everybody who wrote and asked for more information on this subject matter. I am so grateful. And if this resonates, I invite you to message me on Instagram at i.am.angela.noel. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your takeaways. Let me know what you want to hear more of in this podcast, and let me know your thoughts. All right, goddesses, stay tuned. Hello, Fire Goddesses. Welcome to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am a prosperity coach for the newly awakened or awake curious, driven overachiever, and overdoer. After running a successful acupuncture practice in Boston for 12 years, I decided to hang my hat by closing the practice and pursue what it is that I'm really meant to do in this world, and that is to serve humanity online on a global scale. Using my background in Chinese medicine, along with the brain science of habits, spirituality, and divine masculine and feminine energy balance, I am here to help you not just understand, but know how powerful you are, and that you are the person who is responsible for having the finances, inner peace, radiant health, and energy, aka the fire, in your life that you've always desired. My intention with this podcast is to serve humanity, no matter what gender you identify as, to help bring out the divine feminine goddess in each and every one of you. As you probably are already aware, the world is changing and is begging for the goddess to come out in each and every one of you. So, Fire Goddesses, stay tuned. Hello, F.I.R.E. Goddesses. Welcome. Okay, this is the first episode in probably about 2 months that I have been flying solo. So I'd love to hear from you at some point, goddesses. I'd love to know your thoughts on this podcast. I'd love to know how you felt about all the guests that I've been having lately. I'd love to know what you want to know more about. I've been hearing from quite a few of you lately. You've been messaging me, and I really appreciate that. You know, sometimes when you have a platform like this, or speaking from my perspective, a lot of times it feels like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And in the online world, there's so many people talking and so many people saying different things, and there's so many people to follow and listen to that I totally get it. It becomes a little overwhelming if you're going to reach out to every single one of them and tell them what you want to hear from them, right? It's kind of up to us. And I get that. It's kind of my job to figure out what content to deliver to you. But for those of you who have reached out lately, I really, it means the world to me. It really does. So feel free just to let me know your thoughts on Instagram at i.am.angelanoel, all dots in between. And let's have a little chat on Instagram. I'd love to know what you want to hear about. I'd love to know how these episodes resonate with you. So this particular episode is inspired by what I've been hearing from you. And I don't know if you've noticed lately, I'm recording this in August 2021, and things are a little bit cray-cray cuckoo right now. You know, it's always my intention to make sure that the people that listen to my podcast or who follow me on social media, or even those who I interact with during the day in real life, it's always my intention to offer them a different way of looking at things if they are used to the common narrative. And at this point, I might sound like a broken record if you've been listening for a while, because I often say the same things over and over again. And, as you know, repetition is the mother of all learning. And we as humans often have to hear things many, many times in order for it to really sink in, don't we? So I'm going to start off this episode by just chatting a little bit about some of the things that I've been hearing from you, and also share with you some experiences that I have been having with my audience. So I'm trying to think of where to go. Okay. So the other day, and I realize people are going to be listening to this. They could be listening to this 10 years from now. So I want to keep this basic. The other day, I posted something on Facebook about, it didn't necessarily imply anything specific, but if you read between the lines, it meant it was referring to something very specific. And the context of the post was this: if you force another person to take something medically, a medicine, against their will, or basically if you're forcing anybody to take something, actually I'm just going to read the post. It's much easier to just talk about it if I read the actual post. Okay, it was a meme, and it said you could have the greatest, most amazing medicine ever created in the history of medicine, and it would still be unethical to force other people to take it. Okay? Now, before I go any further, I want to make a note here. I realize that people who listen are all across the board as far as where they are at. Okay. And my intention in this episode is to not discount anybody here and their thoughts, their feelings, and their emotions. My intention is only to make sure that you get information that you are able to use in order to make a decision that is in an integrity and in alignment with your values. And what feels good to you, what feels right to you, what feels like the best option for you and your family. So, I posted that, and then, I don't know, I didn't check Facebook for maybe an hour. I had some calls that I had to get on. And then after my work day was over, I went in and checked Facebook again. And that meme, usually, you post a meme. In my audience, usually there isn't much of a response. Maybe somebody I'll get a few likes, I'll get a few loves, I'll get some people, responding in favor to the post. Now, it's never, ever my intention to expect that everybody who follows me, who pays attention to what I post on social media, to agree with me, okay? But my intention is always to post things that will allow people to look at things differently, besides the mainstream narrative. And personally, I live in Massachusetts in the United States. It is slanted politically in a certain direction. And this is not about politics. I've mentioned before on this podcast, I am apolitical at this point. I don't really associate with any party. But what I want for each and every one of you, what I want for humanity, what my mission is while I live on this planet, is to make sure that people have information so that they can think openly, so that they can think outside the box, rather than just trusting that whatever they're being fed is the truth. Okay, so when I went back onto Facebook, I noticed I had a few responses from people that I personally know. Okay, these are not strangers. These are people that I know in the flesh. We were in a business group together, and I considered them my friends. I've socialized with both of them. I think they're great human beings. I really believe that their comments are coming from a place of the heart. Deep down, they do the things that they do because they really care about people. I know this about them. I know who they are. But the comments were starting to feel like a personal attack. They were starting to feel toxic. They were starting to feel negative. And they were starting to feel like it was going to become slanderous if I just kept the comments on. Plus, I just didn't want people who were just scrolling through to see all those comments attached to my personal profile on Facebook. That's not the energy that I want to project into the world. It's not how I choose to live my life. I don't argue with people that way. One of my mentors says, and it's something that's really just helped me in so many ways in my life. It's helped in my marriage. He says, if you try to argue with an idiot, you only prove that there are two. Because when you argue, even if you believe that you have a really good case, right? Your intentions are really for helping people. If you are not arguing in a place that's in alignment with the other person's values, you are never going to be able to penetrate their model of reality. Does that make sense? So, when, you say you're in an argument with either your spouse or a complete stranger online, and you're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and there's no resolution ever. Because both people need to feel there's this control piece, right? Oftentimes people don't even realize they have control issues. But there's this control aspect to the need to convince that person that you are right. However, if that other person does not share the same values as you, you are never ever going to be able to convince that other person that you're right. And here's another thing to think about. I'm obviously talking specifically about a certain topic without actually saying it, okay? I'm talking about current events. I'm talking about something that's, in my interpretation, being forced, guilted, shamed into being taken. And personally, I do not believe it's right to do that to another person. So going back to what I was saying about when you're arguing with somebody, you've probably been in this situation before. I know I have been, where I really believe that I'm right. I am correct according to my model of reality. And I've seen this many times in my clients. I've seen this with my spouse. When having a conversation with my spouse, oftentimes we have different values. We have different models of reality. So we would which results in just going back and forth, and feeling like there's never any resolution. So I just want to emphasize the fact that there are many cases, and I'm going to just throw this out there. It's food for thought. There are many situations where there really isn't a right or a wrong answer. Now, I do believe there are things that are wrong, such as murdering somebody. There are certain things that are just wrong. You shouldn't do those things. Okay? But when it comes to the narrative that's going on right now in regards to a certain thing, I am not fully convinced that there is a right or wrong answer yet. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way I do. I know that because you're reaching out to me and you're telling me, I'm getting pressure. I'm feeling pressure from my friends, from my family. It's getting heated. It's getting uncomfortable. I don't know what to do. I feel this way. They feel that way. They are threatening me. They are telling me that I can't come over and visit grandma, or I can't go over and visit mom and dad, or they don't want me in their house. And it's not a matter of being anti or pro anything, but it is a matter of these particular individuals that are reaching out to me are saying that they're just not decided yet. They want to wait for more information. They want to do some more research. They want to really make an informed decision. And I totally get that. I mean, how many times in your life have you made a choice or made a decision, whether it's by yourself or you made it with your partner? Maybe it's a big decision like buying a house, getting a loan, doing big things, big girl things. Did you just run out and do it? Did you just run out and do it without thinking about it, without thinking about the consequences of your actions? Probably not. When it comes to making major decisions, getting married, buying a car, especially if it's a car where it's like, you don't really need the car right now. You just would like to have one. You're going to do your due diligence, aren't you? You're going to ask the right questions. You're not going to just marry some random person that you don't really know, or without asking certain questions or wanting to know more about their values. Chances are you're going to marry somebody that you've known for a while, or you feel like you really know at a certain level, whether it's a soul level or you've been together for a long time. Or even if you haven't been together that long, it doesn't matter, but you feel really connected to this person. It's the same thing with the current decision that many of us are trying to decide right now. It's no different. And what I'm hearing people asking me to talk about this more often, to bring this subject up because it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And I hear you. I understand you. I feel you. And here's what I want to share with you about this. If you are a capable adult, okay, meaning you're not somebody that needs somebody to take care of you, somebody to make your life decisions for you, like you're actually capable of doing these yourself. You're not a child where you need a parent or a guardian to make decisions for you. You actually have the agency within yourself to make informed choices. And you are getting the pressure from other people that do not live in your body, that do not inhabit your mind. And it might be getting contentious. It might show up as, I'm really concerned about you. And it could actually come from legitimate concern, but a lot of times those comments I find when it's, I'm really concerned about you, are you okay? Oftentimes those comments come from a passive-aggressive nature, don't they? And I could be judging here. I know it's a judgmental statement, but that's just my experience. What is that person's intention when they're coming to you and they're making threatening remarks? I mean, I've seen it. I've seen everything at this point. Because you are choosing to follow your own path and make your own decisions, and you are not agreeing with the tribe. Now, there was an actual time in history where humans had to fear for their lives if they didn't agree with the tribe, if they didn't follow the tribe. We don't have to worry about that anymore. In fact, we are evolving at a very rapid rate right now, and all of this stuff, okay, you can take this information, you can do whatever you want with it, you can throw it in the trash, you can press pause, but I invite you to actually listen to the end and then make an informed judgment decision, okay? But the reason why it is so tumultuous, that is so intense, that it feels so difficult right now is because human beings, we're built for this. We're built to endure times like these because what these times do, right down to our thoughts and feelings and emotions, all the way up to the biggest challenge. So, think about the spectrum of challenges, right? Starting with ourselves, the unnecessary pressure, the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, all the things that we do, the ego that we force on ourselves, the suffering we endure because of ourselves, all the way up to the worst imaginable suffering that comes from the external world. This is all part of the school of life. Now, if you're coming from a different place and you don't quite get this yet, it's okay. All right, you're here for a reason. The fact that you're listening tells me what I'm saying is resonating somewhat with you. If it's not completely a conscious awareness that it's resonating, it's resonating with you at a subconscious level, or else you would have turned this off a long, long time ago. I'm already 19 minutes into talking. You would have turned this off a long, long time ago. But there's a part of what I'm messaging right now that is getting you curious, isn't it? Or else you wouldn't be here. And I know that this is an actual problem because I'm hearing from people left and right, and a lot of people are bloody scared. They're scared either because they're feeling threatened, they're feeling like their safety is in danger, whether it's actual like safety, like they're worried they don't feel safe in their home because of the decisions that they're making or abstaining from, or they don't feel safe because they're disbanding from their tribe, right? It's a very, very primal concern. The idea that your friends no longer agree with you, don't like you, don't want to talk to you unless you do what they want you to do, unless your family does what you want them to do. And I invite you to really, first of all, look at what it is you're truly afraid of. Now, I just want to mention a side comment. I had to postpone podcast recording because my next door neighbor was mowing his lawn, and I just feel like it was getting a little too loud. And now I'm talking in the middle of the day, and there's a chickadee outside my window. So if you hear birds, that's what's going on. I don't have a soundproof room, podcasting room. I actually kind of like it. So anyway, I digress. So what is it? What is it that you're afraid of? Or what is it that comes up when you are considering your choices and you think about the other people that are pressuring you? What's coming up for you? Is it fear? Is it the desire to want to please these people? I know a lot of times people feel this attachment to wanting to please their parents, even as adults. So is it coming from there? Is it coming from your siblings? Is it coming from your BFF from kindergarten? And by you standing strong in your decision, whatever that is, whether, you are waiting or abstaining right now, and you feel like you're being given a hard time, maybe people are getting really nasty with you, and what are you afraid of? What is that bringing up for you? Really just go inwards and ask yourself those questions, because oftentimes, like, humans are we're meaning-making machines, right? So when we're faced with opposition, when we're faced with, uncomfortable conversations, a lot of us tend to retreat or avoid because it's really scary stuff. It's really scary stuff because, especially, I know there's some men out there that have a hard time, they don't want to disappoint or anything, but for women especially, it was really ingrained in our programming to be good, to please, to smile, to be a good girl. And, with these people that I was speaking about earlier in the episode, they knew me 12 or 13 years ago when I was in this business networking group. I was in my early to mid 30s. I hadn't fully stepped into my power yet. I don't want to say that I've changed, because I don't believe that I've changed. I'm still the same person. I'm just less afraid of what people think of me. If they can have whatever, they can say whatever they want to say about me. I'm at the point now where I don't care. And it's very, very liberating and freeing to say those words honestly. Like, if somebody wants to talk and judge, let them talk and judge. People are going to judge somebody or something all the time. And if they're choosing to judge me, really what they're actually saying is that they are giving away their power to me. Because what is judgment? Judgment is actually, a lot of times when we're judging people, what is actually happening is that we are looking at that part of ourselves that we're not sure about. So if we look in the mirror and say, I don't like how I get angry sometimes and I explode, or I don't necessarily like how I'm unaccepting of other people for who they are. It may not really be a conscious choice, like you don't realize it. It's not like you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm somebody who tends to not accept other people for the choices that they make. It's often very subconscious. And it often comes, I talk about brain habits a lot with my clients, and when I do this work with people, that so many of our actions are the actions of subconscious habits that have been on our brains since birth to 7 years old, because it comes from programming. And so when we judge other people, it often is an opportunity. Actually, I'm going to go out and say it's always an opportunity to look at ourselves, because oftentimes there's some opportunity for growth there. So with a couple of people that were commenting on my Facebook post, they were going into some choice words. I mean, it wasn't getting dirty, but I was, being called selfish a lot, and a killer. I those are strong words to call somebody that you haven't really ever. I mean, those are strong words to call somebody at any time. So what I want to impart to you is that when somebody calls you something, if they're getting really angry about the choices that they've made, I want to remind you that hurt people hurt people. So if you're hurting, chances are, instead of taking, what many people don't realize is that this is an opportunity for them to look into the mirror and examine in their lives, where are they hurting that they need to hurt people so much. So I can only imagine the amount of pain that those people must be in if they feel necessary to call other people names, use choice words, not be willing to engage in any two-way conversation. It's just their way or the highway. And there's so much anger. There was so much shaming. And really, all of those things that were going on were just a reflection. What they were doing, they were actually telling me who they were. People will always tell you or show you who they are. Let that sink in and really just allow for whatever is coming up for you right now when you listen to these words to come up. You might have to pause. You might have to listen. I like to listen to my stuff on the go, but I also like to, like with some of my favorite things, I just like to sit in quiet reflection and, allow whatever thoughts need to come through with my journal or not. Because this is an opportunity for you to really stand strong in your power, set boundaries, and, side note, boundaries do not have to be difficult. You don't need to be angry when you're setting your boundaries. You can be lovingly firm. This is where it stops. Boom, done. And how other people choose to react and respond to you is none of your business. So I want to emphasize before I close this episode that it is not my intention to tell anybody what to do, what choices to make, how to live their life, what to do with their body. It is my intention to make sure that you get information that is not necessarily being openly talked about in the current mainstream narrative. What I want and what I wish for you is for you to choose powerfully. That's all I want. It's really starting to be apparent to me that we are gradually losing our ability to have our own authority. And it really requires an inner strength, and it requires courage. It requires a commitment to staying in integrity with who we truly are, to be here right now, to be doing this right now. And I just want to take this opportunity to honor each and every one of you who is listening right now. I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy. And if you look at people like myself or, anybody that you follow, that you respect, and you're like, wow, I've had people say to me, how do you do it? How do you handle being public and having people say things? And I've had a lot of practice. What you're hearing and the person that you're seeing right now is the result of, I've been in therapy. I think I started when I was in my late teens, and I was in therapy on and off until my mid-40s. And then I started working with more spiritual guides, shamans, going that route. And that's when things really took off for me, and hiring coaches, hiring people to help me. So there you go, goddesses. I hope this answers your questions. I hope that this podcast serves you. If you have specific questions, please reach out to me on Instagram, i.am.angela.noel. And I'd love to know what you want to hear from me. Because when we can embody our fullest expression of ourselves, who we truly are, our authority, our sovereignty, our light, that's when we move forward. That's when we evolve. That's when we grow. And that's when all of this seeming nonsense that's going on in the world will become less and less. So until next time, goddesses, be radiant, be powerfully authentic, and know that you can always reclaim your fire at any time. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. If you have found value in this podcast, please share this podcast with those you care about. As you probably already know, in order for the world to change, we need to change. So spread the word by sharing this podcast or by leaving a review in iTunes. Until next time, Fire Goddess, be radiant, be fiery, and be powerfully authentic. Take care.